Hello, my name is Sabrina Rising, and welcome to my channel. I am a spiritual mentor and a psychic medium, and I love to talk about all things spirituality, personal development, and mystical. Today, we're going to talk about the difference between fear and intuition. This is a common question I get in most of my coaching programs and in my group classes, and when I'm helping people develop their intuitive abilities. How do I tell the difference between fear and intuition? And this is so normal, and it's a wonderful place to start. First of all, there's two main distinct qualities. Fear is something you feel in your body. You feel it in your solar plexus. Your cells contract, your breath shortens, your heart can start beating a little faster. You can start to have ruminating thoughts or some negative self-talk. It feels nervous, right? You feel anxious. You feel unsure, right? These are all very common symptoms of what fear feels like. And we're not talking about primal fear. Primal fear is a necessary part of the apparatus, that we're born with. It helps us survive and keeps us safe in life-threatening situations. Okay, so primal fear is a good thing, and we want to leave that off to the side. That's not part of today's discussion. Today, we're talking about perceptual fear. So fear being a conditioned response to a perceived threat. That's what perceptual fear is. Oh, something bad might happen. What if something bad happens? What if I get it wrong? What if I make a mistake? What if other people laugh at me? Or what if I don't gain the approval of my loved ones? And so on and so on and so on. There's a million different variations of perceptual fear, and it's all just perceptual fear. And how perceptual fear is created is through early childhood conditioning. Okay, so we are born into this incarnation. We come in as humans, intact, online with our intuitive abilities. We come in whole, perfect, and complete, connected to universal intelligence. We don't understand fear. And then we start to learn it through our early childhood environment. Your caregivers, for better, for worse, taught you to be afraid in order to keep you safe. And we learned not only what the directives that were given to us, but we also learn to inherit the views and the perceptions of our caregivers. So we learn to see the world the way they see it. We learn to interpret things the way they interpret them. Okay. And so we don't come out of this conditioning until we start questioning our view of things. We start questioning our experience or our opinions and whether or not something is true based on how we feel. Okay. So conditioning is what's really preventing you from accessing your intuition. That's all it ever is. Fear is the only thing that's ever blocking us. And interestingly enough, most of us are afraid to listen to our intuition because of all the things I've just said. We're afraid of making a mistake. We're afraid of getting it wrong. We're afraid of being laughed at. We're afraid of loss or abandonment or whatever the potential catastrophe is for you in your view of trusting the unknown. Okay. It's hard to trust the unknown because we want to feel safe. We want to make sure we're getting it right and we're making the best of this human experience. Ultimately, that's what we all deeply desire, is to maximize our time here on this earth, to fulfill our potential, and to lead a fulfilled and meaningful life. None of these things are ever fully possible if we are directed by our reasoning mind. If we use our logical brain to try and calculate our choices based on past evidence, based on someone else's story, based on what society is telling us. In order for us to live a fully, deeply fulfilled and self-expressed life, we must learn to trust our own intuitive guidance. And sometimes that means going against the grain. It means letting people down. It means, doing things that seem illogical. It can mean even hurting people or letting go of some relationships that can cause disappointment and grief. Okay. So we have to develop our courage if we're going to learn how to really develop our own intuitive abilities. Keeping in mind that intuition is already there. You already have it. It's already part of you. The only thing that's really standing in the way, as I mentioned earlier, is your conditioned self. All the fears that you learned along the way, second guessing yourself. Perhaps other people told you that you weren't smart, or that you were always wrong, or that you make mistakes, or that you're this, or you're that, or you have to be like this, or you have to be like that. And so we really need to overcome a lot of our need to please others, our need to be approved of, our need to be safe ultimately, in order to fully trust ourselves. Okay. So it's very helpful to know, especially if you're just watching this video or this type of content for the first time, that there's no wrong choice. and I say this all the time, there are only choices that will either present more challenging opportunities for growth and expansion, bigger life lessons, maybe some harder, more painful life lessons. And then there are choices that represent more ease, more grace, and more alignment. It really just depends on you and where you are in your life and the purity of your intention, your deepest heart's desire, and what you really want for yourself ultimately. Okay. So if you're making a fear-based choice because you want to ensure your safety and your security, you might temporarily ensure your safety and your security, but you won't be fulfilled. Okay. Again, this is the reasoning mind that's telling you what to do based on logical evidence and based on the fear that perhaps, you're going to get it wrong, whatever that means for you. Okay. So we want to be able to let go of this conditioning. Coming into our intuitive abilities is all about deconditioning. And I've said this in other videos as well. We want to, just accept that we have this innate ability to trust our own intuitive guidance. And again, as I just mentioned, there is no wrong choice. Okay. So we take the pressure off of ourselves and we trust that whatever we choose is actually going to serve the lessons that we need. It can be the lesson is to trust our intuition more. It can be the lesson is to not listen to this person or not be peer pressured, or not give up on your dreams, right? To actually follow your deepest heart's desire. Whatever you choose is going to present the most valuable and the most, I want to say, the most breakthrough opportunity for you to learn whatever the next lesson is in order for you to get closer to fulfilling your potential. This is what we're all here to do. Every human being that is born on this earth during any lifetime is here to fulfill their destiny, to fulfill their karma, their purpose. It can be a purpose to do, to develop a gift, to teach, to guide, to experience, to find joy, to transcend fear, to awaken, whatever that purpose is for you. Okay. And so there's something in you nudging you that says, hey, how do I get closer to my purpose? It's really not about, what job do I choose or what relationship do I choose or where should I live or what should I do? The deeper question is, how do I experience the deepest possible fulfillment in each moment of my life? And your intuition is the only source of pure guidance there is that will ensure this outcome for you. Okay. So as we develop our ability to access our intuition, what are some practical steps? So practical steps are diaphragmatic breathing. We want to bring in the big belly breath, like ocean breath, I like to call it, where we breathe in, expand the belly out, and let the belly drop naturally. The diaphragmatic breathing is a very simple exercise. You can do it lying down with your hand on your belly until you get it right, until you really master this flow of inhaling into the belly and exhaling out, because we're so conditioned to breathing in our chest. We keep our breath shallow. We stay in fight or flight. We stay in survival mode. Intuition is not accessible in survival mode. The only thing you can access in survival mode is how to continue to keep yourself safe in the current circumstances you're in, which also limits the possibilities for your life in every area. So we want to bring in the diaphragmatic breathing. You can start any practice this way. If you don't have a practice, I'm going to tell you to develop one, to create one, because this is step one in being able to access our inner landscape and start to tune into our inner responses, which is, also our intuition. So it can be a 5 to 10 minute practice, mindfulness practice, where you begin with the deep diaphragmatic breathing. And this will slow down your central nervous system. It'll regulate you. It'll put you into relax and digest mode. It'll ground you into the present moment. And as you simply focus on the sensation of the breath, again, this is something that you're going to practice and become used to and get more comfortable with. It's going to feel a little awkward at first, but as you become more comfortable with it, you'll notice that a lot of those ruminating thoughts start to disappear, right? What becomes more prevalent is your awareness of the breath and the peace that's available to you in that present moment. When we choose to get still and go inward and do some deep diaphragmatic breathing, we are actually cultivating our connection to our essence, essentially being able to access our inner peace, okay? Which is at the core of you, regardless of the circumstances you're in, regardless of how hard it is or whatever chaos is going on around you. This core, this baseline of peace is always available. And it's in that neutral space of no attachment, no particular preference to any outcome, not trying to manipulate the circumstances, not trying to make anything happen. It's in that neutral space that we can access our intuitive guidance. What's actually going to serve our highest and best good? Okay. Now, of course, we want to make choices that are more easeful and more aligned. This is our deepest desire. But even some of those choices that are difficult, that are more painful, and that require more of us in order to be able to grow, can be incredibly life altering and ultimately worthwhile. Okay. Myself, I've had many experiences in my life where I've made some really, really, really intense choices that created all kinds of karma and all kinds of learning for me. But I grew at an accelerated pace, and I grew and I expanded because I had a willingness to grow, and I developed the courage to grow because I wanted to feel better. I wanted to do better. And I wanted, like I said earlier, to maximize my human potential in this lifetime, right? And the same is true for everybody. So again, bringing ourselves back to the deep diaphragmatic breathing, letting go of any expectation, letting go of any idea that there could be a wrong choice, letting go of any attachments to any outcome, bringing ourselves into that neutral space. So the diaphragmatic breathing will do that. It'll bring you into that state of equanimity. And from there, your only job is to ask very clear questions to the universe. The universe is you. It's not separate from you. It's not like you're asking some other entity. Sometimes we think about we're asking our guides and we're asking some other entity. We're asking our loved ones. We're asking some other entity. It's all one consciousness that expresses itself in different shapes and forms and personalities and visions and messages that will resonate for you. You might have, as you develop your intuitive abilities, you might sense more things, or you might see more visions, or you might feel people, or feel animals, or feel colors, or whatever your perceptions are. As you develop your intuition, we each have our own tendencies, our own unique abilities, if you will, and that's okay. It's still all one consciousness. I believe in one absolute reality, one absolute truth that expresses itself in a variety of different ways to get your attention, that are unique to you, based on past life, based on current life, based on relationships, based on the guides that you have. Okay, but ultimately, you're always getting the same type of messaging from universal intelligence as you start to develop your intuition. And that intuition is you, right? That universal intelligence is a part of you. It exists in your being, right? In your life force energy. So your body is just a physical vessel, and that physical vessel is animated by this life force energy. And that life force energy contains all of the information that you need to maximize your time on this planet, right? To fulfill your potential, to find that deep fulfillment and that inner peace in every choice that you're making. So again, how do we tell the difference? Our body contracts, it gets triggered, we get anxious, we close down. When we're developing our intuition, it feels like an expansion, a soft opening, a gentle awareness. It's not a particular high or a particular low. It's just very neutral, very steadfast, very easy. Okay. And as we practice this level of discernment, I'm coming out of fear with my diaphragmatic breathing. I can put my hand on my heart to meet my anxiety, my panic, my doubt with compassion and self-love and self-awareness, just as a gentle reminder to myself that I live in a benevolent universe, when the universe is conspiring to work with me, to bring to me my deepest heart's desires, to allow me to fulfill myself in this lifetime. And so I know this implicitly. I have this deep trust, and the trust part is the part that you need to develop. The intuition part just naturally comes online because it's already a part of who you are. As you peel back the layers of fear, what you're doing is developing trust in yourself. This is happening parallel. I develop trust in myself. I'm peeling back fear, right? As soon as I go to make a decision, all of a sudden, if I'm trusting my intuition, I said, oh, this feels good to me. This feels like a yes, a resounding yes in my body. The reasoning mind, also known as the ego mind or the identity, might kick in and say, well, what if you make a mistake? Or what if it's the wrong choice? Or what if something bad will happen, right? This is what keeps us, so many of us, stuck and not being able to move forward. Maybe you're the type of person that has to ask, 10 different people what to do before you can do it, right? So this is important to acknowledge that you're not trusting yourself, right? So when that fear is present, that bring in the diaphragmatic breathing. It's the only responsible thing we can do when we're triggered, when we're afraid. Ultimately, when we're triggered, the only feeling that we're having is ultimately fear. Okay. So just bringing yourself into that diaphragmatic breathing practice, hand on your heart, this will ground you, it will settle you. And then the awareness of all of the doubt becomes something that you can detach from. Right now, there's this omnipresent awareness. Oh, I can hear the voice of my reasoning mind. I can hear all the doubts and fears that are playing, but I'm going to stay anchored in this grounded experience of diaphragmatic breathing, which connects me to my higher self. And as I practice this and develop this way of operating, from here, I can reach that neutral place I was talking about earlier. And here is where I can start to ask my questions. Is this a yes? Is this a no? Is this good for me? Is this what the right next choice is? Whatever your questions are. You want to start small. I start by asking tiny little things that you are easy to not be attached to, and see what your intuition says. The first response is always the correct one. What you feel in your body is always spot on. That, because that's the essence of who you are. The conditioning comes in afterwards and says, wait a minute, I don't know about this. What is this person going to say? What if that happens? What if this happens? The goal here is to learn to trust that first response above anything else. And the more you do that, the stronger that voice becomes, the more anchored you become in your own intuitive guidance, and ultimately learning how to trust yourself. We develop a relationship with ourselves based on the relationship that our caregivers have with us in early childhood. And for some of us, that was pleasant. And for some of us, it was painful, right? Either way, it's still not a relationship with you, right? And so as we are learning to decondition, what we're doing essentially is developing a deep and intimate understanding of our own selves, of our own natural rhythms, of our own natural impulses. We're learning to listen beyond the reasoning mind, beyond all of the conditioning. We're tapping into our essence, and we're trusting those signals as they come in. Okay. And the more you do this, again, the louder this voice becomes, the stronger this voice becomes. Okay. And this is true when you're accessing your own intuition. It's true if you're, giving intuitive guidance to other people. Like when I'm channeling and I'm giving psychic readings, I'm not attached to an outcome. There's a small part of me that might be afraid of getting it wrong, but I quickly surrender that and let that go and trust that the guidance will be there. And I trust myself. I trust myself to name what I see, to name what I hear, to name what I experience. And I've been doing it for so long that it's just become a natural part of who I am. And anybody can develop that. You just have to start by really trusting the first response that you get, whether that's a physical one, it can be an image, it can be a sound, it can be a physical sensation. Okay. So just learning to trust yourself. Fear is keeping you safe and keeping you limited and keeping you in the past. And intuition is guiding you to your best life, regardless of your circumstances. It has nothing to do with what's logical. It's always about you manifesting what serves your highest and best good and what's really going to bring you that deep fulfillment. I hope this video was helpful. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. I'd love to answer them for you. And I will see you Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific for Oracle Hour. Take care.